I think it was on the 27th of January, the end of January. Apparently, a process server came to serve civil process for a little dispute I have with an ex-partner. It was personal; it wasn't for my business. So they had the home address. He came to the gate. He says he did not see the "Beware of Dogs" sign, which you can obviously see all the way back from the last corner, because Country Creek Lane dead ends into our driveway. He reached over, had to look how to open the gate because I knocked the outside handle off because our dogs have bitten before when people came in the yard, so it scared me. And once in the cul-de-sac because they feel like that's part of their yard too. And that's why 2 years with the last incident we had this gate put up. It's electric so that it would be easy for us. He reached in, unlocked the gate, went through the gate, knocked on the front door. When he got to the gate, my little dog was outside barking at him. He went through the gate. He felt like it was safe, like the dog wasn't going to hurt him, which he is a nipper. He bit him. But he didn't bite him till he got to the door and knocked on the door. At that point, my Bouvier de Flanders, which is 130 pounds, came around the doggy door and came out, and they both, they cornered him. He was able to get all the way to the gate, and at the time that he got to the gate, he turned his back, which you should never do when you're being, confronted with a dog. He turned his back, and when he did, Marina lunged at him. He threw his arm out, got his arm in a couple spots, did not shake. It was just bite off, which is a protection bite. It's not a vicious bite. He left. The bite didn't take any sutures or anything. I didn't know about it until the next day. The next day, my neighbor, which is my aunt, she called me and said, "Darcy, animal control is at your house." So I ran from my office here. When I got here, animal control had a little bit of a scratch right here and on his finger, and it was barely bleeding. And he says, "I was here to get shot records, but now that your dogs have bit 2 people in 2 days, I'm going to have to take them." So I asked him, I said, "Why did you go in the yard and do the exact same thing the process server?" Because he told me then what happened the day before. I didn't even know anybody had been bit until then. And I asked him, I said, "Why did you do the same thing that he did, knowing that I had dogs inside the gate that would bite you and I have a Beware of Dogs sign?" He says, "Because I have to do that for my job. How else was I going to get a hold of you?" Well, I said, "You have our records. Nothing's changed. We live in the same house. We have the same phone numbers, same cell phone numbers. You have it all because I've had this issue before. That's why I put this gate up." And he says, "It doesn't matter. You don't have a right to have a dog that is going to bite." And I just couldn't believe it. So I had him call the cops. The cop was very rude. He got in my face, told me he was going to arrest me if I didn't let him take my dogs. I started crying. I told him to call his superior because I thought he was out of line. He called his superior. By then there was another animal control guy here, Ed Martin. He's like under Paul Studevant, the head guy. When the sergeant, David Ham, got here, the other police office deputy's boss, he was shocked. He couldn't believe that they were going to take my dogs because initially they trespassed. And he went over and talked to animal control, and he says, "I don't think you should take the dogs." He says, "I read the ordinance. The ordinance says she has a right to keep her dogs here until she has a hearing and the investigation's over." So I guess because a sergeant higher authority than them agreed with me, they let me keep the dogs. About 3 weeks later, they called me and basically told me that if I didn't bring my dogs in or let me or them take my dogs, that they would arrest me because I refused to let them take them again. They said that the county attorney, the assistant county attorney, Erica Moore, wanted to euthanize both of my dogs. And since that day, I did take the dogs to them the next day because I wanted to get their beds and everything together. I haven't seen my dogs. It's been almost Tuesday. It'll be 4 weeks. We're not allowed to visit them. I take them chewies and toys every 2 or 3 times a week, but we're not allowed to see them. They have no human contact. Even the people there can't interact with the dogs. They're in total isolation, which is animal cruelty. The dogs now, we went to a hearing on Tuesday, this past Tuesday. We went to a hearing in front of a magistrate, which I think is a conflict of interest in my opinion, because the magistrate is paid by the same people that the county attorney and animal control and everybody else is paid for as the county. I think it should have went in front of a state judge, but a magistrate decided that he wasn't going to euthanize both of my dogs, which is great, but he was going to deem them dangerous. Now, deeming a dog dangerous means a lot of money, but the worst part, I would have already agreed to it, but the worst part is I can't take my dog to the beach anymore. These dogs are kind of like, and I've got hundreds of people that know these dogs from us taking them to social gatherings. We have parties here where we have 100 people, and they love people. Once you're invited and they know you, they're fine. It's like when they're here, it's a button. And when I take them off of this property, it's like somebody pushed the button and turned it off. And they're totally different dogs. At the beach, they love kids. They actually, Marino swims out and he swims around the kids to get them to come back into shore because he don't like them going out too far. I mean, they're wonderful dogs. But when they're here, they're very protective. And I feel like, well, and now that it's been, now that they know that I'm appealing their decision to deem them dangerous, because I really want to be able to still enjoy my dogs and take them places. Now they won't let me have my dogs. I agreed to keep the dogs here under the dangerous dog ordinance until a state judge decides whether he wants to, keep them deemed dangerous or throw it out. And they refuse to let me keep the dogs here under the dangerous dog order. They want to keep them. This appeal appeals have taken up to 6 months. By then, my dogs will be kennel crazy. There is a term. It's a kennel crazy. And I won't have the same dogs coming back to me that left that day. And I really, truly feel like my constitutional rights have been violated. I think that as a homeowner and a property and taxpayer, I think I have a right to have an animal as long as I keep them contained that is protective of my home.